Okay, so we've got MB. Raimondi, wave MB. Say hello to everybody. Hey. We've got Taryn from Knowify joining us today, and of course Liz, and I'm Heather. And we're so thrilled to have everybody join us for the Appy Hour today. We're going to have a jam-packed, fact and fun-filled hour today.
No doubt.
So, Liz, I think we have to jump right in today.
I am totally ready for that. So let's just take off with our construction talk.
Let's do it.
So we're super happy. Taryn's here with us. And so we're going to be having an amazing drink later that I think is super clever. Every single time that we have a drink sponsor, we always say, do you have any ideas? And it's very fun whenever we get, yeah, we have an idea. So I can't wait to share that later. Yep. And then Heather introduced herself a little bit and me just a little bit. But Heather, do you have anything that you want to share about your firm that's happening right now?
Sure. So in my firm, what's happening in my firm right now? So I'm working on a couple of Zap integrations for some accounting firms to help them automate their processes. Their onboarding processes and other processes. And I'm also in the middle of recording on-demand Zapier sessions for my Zapier workshop. So I'll be offering those live still, as I have been doing in the past, but pretty soon people will be able to go to my website and watch the Zapier workshops on demand. So that's kind of like the big stuff that's going on in my firm right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And in our firm, you know, we're a lot like many of you that are recovering from the 1099 and W-2 deadline. So it was like everything had to wait until after January 31st. And so we spent last week really playing catch up to all of the other things that happened in January that were not 1099 and W-2 related. And then this week, it feels like we're starting to get back on our regular course. So yeah, it's after the January 31st deadline, getting back to normal.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because the flu has been rampant, and I was a victim of the flu. I think you were sick too around the end of January, weren't you?
It missed me. It missed me.
You. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it totally missed me, which I'm really glad.
Mm-hmm.
So we are thrilled to have Knowify here. And we are going to be talking about QuickBooks Online and project management for contractors and what type of contractors work well in which places. And then that toast that I was telling you about, super excited about that. And then the exciting thing that Heather and I are going to be sharing later, you know, our special feature is what did we do, the cool thing this month. So we're going to get to share what we're going to be doing this month. That's awesome. And then make sure that you are liking us on Facebook. We are totally trying to get our likes up and then follows on Twitter. So please,
yes,
join us on events like this and liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter. That really helps with making sure that we get the information out.
Absolutely. And we have a bunch of people saying hi. We have Rita and Karen and Lisa and Nuria. And Alicia, hi Alicia. Alicia's part of our training team on webinars for Intuit. So
yeah, hi.
Alec, thanks for joining us today.
When I'm streaming, I don't get to see all the people that are with us. So I'm glad you're sharing that.
Yeah, we've got Brad Salmanis is here. He's going to be joining us when we go to London. So he'll be able to chime in.
Hey.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And all these people are liking our page. Oh my gosh, a big
yay!
That's awesome. Instant gratification, right?
Thank you. Yeah, it helps to know who's listening, who's watching, who's with us. All right, so I'm going to dive on in, and I just love this image because this represents all of our contractors, right? So all of the tools that they use and QuickBooks Online, now we're able to do project management for contractors. And so we're going to go through those the workflow and then what to do about change orders. And, you know, the biggest thing with being able to be inside of an online application, whether it's QuickBooks or an app like Knowify, is being able to collaborate. and then that really nice thing with visibility, so which creates efficiency. And then moving over to, so what are the common pushbacks? So whenever we're talking about project management, invoicing is a big deal. So how do you progress invoice? So we're going to be talking about that conversation. And then, moving into the cloud means that we are able to collaborate, and then being able to use apps also means that we can push in other pieces that integrate with those apps. So QuickBooks does a really nice job of integrating with a lot of the project apps, and Knowify does as well. So we're going to be talking about, maybe what a workflow would look like if you had more than just one app that you were using. So MB is an expert on job costing inside of QuickBooks Online. So I'm thrilled that she's here. And I want to introduce MB. She is Advanced Certified Pro Advisor, and she's been certified in QuickBooks Enterprise and Point of Sale for many years. And she is one of the top pro advisors for the Insightful Accountant. And she has been named top 100 for several years, many years there. So welcome, MB. We're thrilled that you're here with us to share your knowledge.
So much for coming on and sharing your knowledge. We are so grateful.
Absolutely.
I am really excited to be here. I mean, what better way to spend a snowy day than to be talking about QuickBooks?
I couldn't agree more.
So Liz, I'm going to go ahead and request remote control.
So you should have it. Go ahead and see if did you get the notification that you have it?
I did not.
Okay, I think that you're moving around though. Yep.
Okay.
There you
Fantastic.
Go. Yay!
We're collaborating.
Well, so right. Takes a village. So welcome everybody. I'm kind of excited to be here and talk about job costing. As Heather said, I presented a couple sessions at QuickBooks Connect both this past year and the year before because it is of interest to a lot of people. And the thing is that QuickBooks Online has been made great progress over the last year or so and coming months. So some of the slides that you'll see, you will not maybe see in your QuickBooks. I have kind of the full job costing in one of my demo companies that just appeared one day. So, like everything else in QuickBooks Online, you never know when it's going to be there and when it's not going to be there for us and for our clients. So I'll try and point out the things that are there now versus the things that may be coming in the future. So when we're talking about job costing, I think that, Wikipedia is definitely a source of truth for everything, right? So what is job costing? It's tracking costs and revenues, and it gives us a way to evaluate whether we are making money per job, and helps us then also do estimates in the future for similar kinds of jobs there. So the whole idea, and if it sounds like a snowblower is going on in the background, it's because the snowblower is going on in the background. It's like really crummy outside. Anyways, be glad that you're not in the Northeast today if you are not in the Northeast. So who is it that would job cost? And it's really, we talk about it in relationship to contractors and people in the trades business, and that's definitely true. But don't limit yourself on job costing because it may be us, right? That's the kind of work that I do. Is I do a lot of project work where I'm, moving people into the QuickBooks ecosystem and trying to get them set up and add the third-party apps and get them going. But, I'm not really a contractor per se of, building houses. So I don't know if I could be part of Liz's conversation with what did you call it, Liz? The housies? What kinds of conversations do we have?
Conversations.
The housing conversations. So I could, because I love working with contractors. So it could be architects, could be graphic designers, but it's basically any small business that wants to know their profitability by job and can really assign costs to the job. So that may be maybe a challenge there. So why do we do it? We want to get profitability by job. We want to better estimate in the future. And, you know, I've been in this business for a long time, and I've seen a lot of small businesses where they're passing on the business and training the younger generation, whether it be their, you know, their kids or nieces or nephews. And the people that have owned the business forever, they can estimate off the top of their head, right? They can go to somebody's house and figure out exactly what needs to be done, and they know the cost. But as their successors are coming in, they're not as good at doing that. And so they want, number one, need to know whether they're making money. But number two, they really need to estimate their costs so that they know how to price out that job. And so the more of estimating and doing jobs and looking at the profitability that they do, then the better they're going to get to be able to estimate in the future. You want to analyze costs, you want to analyze labor, and you really want to analyze the types of jobs that are most profitable. So whether you use something like class tracking for your different kinds of jobs that you do, or somehow you name the job so that you can group like jobs together, or use a custom field on a sales form so that you can filter for that custom field, the custom field, to be able to figure out, you know, there may be types of jobs that I love doing, but I'm not making any money on them. So either I'm not pricing right, or they're just really not the types of jobs that I should be doing right now. So when we're talking about QuickBooks Online, we do have a couple of options, right? So we have customers and sub-customers, but what we're going to talk about here is using the project feature. Intuit has put a lot of resources in setting up the project, and the idea is that you have one center to go and see everything that are related to all of your jobs or projects that you're working on. So in order for projects to be working, you need to actually turn them on. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. This is not a how-to step-by-step, but if you go to the advanced settings, there's a projects area, and you can go ahead and turn on projects. So use projects for financial tracking. It seems to me that I heard somewhere, and Heather, you may know this, that eventually new QBO users, projects is going to be turned on automatically. So it will automatically have that tab on the left-hand navigation bar. I could be wrong, you know, I could be hallucinating, it could be something that I want, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but what happened?
I haven't heard that yet. I know there's that trick with the projects that an accountant user can turn them on but can't turn them off, but then an end user can turn them off, right, Liz? You wrote an article about that, right?
Right.
Correct. Yep. It's all about who turns them on.
Right.
Originally.
Mm-hmm.
So when they are turned on, or they may be turned on automatically, I don't know, you will get the projects option on the left-hand navigation bar, and then all you do is go to the project center and add a new project. Now the screenshot you're looking at here, I actually have in one of my demo companies, but my other demo company, it doesn't show up like this, where you have the project profitability right there on the home page. So it will be showing up. And the other thing that you probably don't see yet, but will be seeing in the future, is how will you bill your customer? So is it a fixed fee? And if it's going to be a fixed fee, then it will not mark time billable or expenses billable automatically. Or is it a time and materials, where when then you assign a customer to time or expenses, then it will mark it billable. So trying to automate that, which is really pretty cool, so that you don't have to really even think about it. And then that advanced area of my project costs will also include my company's products and services. It has to do with, is it going to pull information from the product and service list, or is it going to, are you really using more the accounts directly on the chart of accounts to go ahead and track your expenses? Now, I mean, best practice has always been that if you're doing job costing, no matter where you are, then you want to make sure that you are using items or products and services on your purchase forms. So when we're talking about tracking our projects, and we have a couple ways to try and track what our potential revenue is going to be, and then we really only have one way to track our potential expenses. So we have estimates, which is a great feature. The thing with estimates that you have to remember is that we cannot, at least at this point, I mean, who knows, maybe coming out, it cannot estimate what our costs are. We can only estimate what our revenue is. Advantage is by item. And I'm going to show you some reports in a few minutes of how I can get like a project profitability report by item, which so it'd be nice to be able to look at things by items. The other option that we have for tracking potential revenue and expenses is to use budget. Because, I mean, think about a budget, right? So I can set a budget up for a particular project and project what my revenue is and then my expenses, but that's going to be by account and not by item. So, I mean, what do we want? We want to either be able to track costs on an estimate so that we can use items, or maybe use items on a budget. So you just have to know that client and figure out what you want to do. So if you are doing estimates, you can do an estimate for projects as well as sub-customers if you want to do sub-customers. When you create an estimate, you can mark it as pending until it's accepted, or until it's rejected. That's like such a strong word that I'm like, so sorry, I'm rejected. So whatever,
like
but they don't want you to do the work, doesn't it? Like it goes to my heart and makes me feel really sad if I'm rejected. But if they sign and they want to do the work, then it will become accepted, and then you can go ahead and mark it closed. Sorry, can't figure out when it's moving forward. And then just a screenshot of budget. So again, you can subdivide. So if I say that I want to subdivide by customer, then I can add that subdivision, and that is where I choose which project am I creating a budget for. And then I put it in. So it lists all of my income and expense accounts. So when you think about whether you're using estimates or you're using budgets, it may be different on how you set up your chart of accounts, right? And how you set up your products and services. So if I am using budgets, I may have a little bit more detailed chart of accounts than I would if I were using items, where I would have multiple items close to the same account on the chart of accounts. So that's kind of tracking our potential. When we're talking about actually tracking our costs, direct costs are easy, right? Because number one, I want to use items because that gives me better reports on there. And I know who I want to assign them to, you know, for which customer do they apply. If I'm doing a time and materials job, I can mark them billable. But really the key for our direct costs is just to make sure I assign it to the customer, whether I'm invoicing the customer for it or not. And again, better reports if I'm using items. You can also use the mobile app. I mean, I think that's one of the great things about QuickBooks Online is that, you know, any device, I can go ahead and record expenses. I can take pictures of the receipt, which will automatically be added. I can assign it a customer. I can mark it billable. So I haven't always been able to mark it billable, but I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago, time flies, I don't remember how long ago, we can mark it billable. Now, what we can't do when we're using the mobile app is we can't assign an item. So if you want those item-based reports, maybe you have an account set up that needs to have items assigned. And then somebody on the back end in the browser would go in and actually assign the item to that expense. But again, you can mark it, at least add the customer on there, and then mark it billable if it's a time and materials job. Now, indirect costs, you have to decide whether you want to allocate them to the job and how you want to allocate them. So what we're talking about here, and it may be something, like I have contractors who buy in bulk. So when they buy, they don't know which job they're using it on. But when they use it for the job, they want to allocate those costs to the job. If that's the case, or the example we have on here, different insurance that maybe I want to assign to the jobs that I'm working on, you're going to use a $0 transaction to say, and typically what I do is when I first incur the cost, I'm going to charge it off to an allocation customer, because then I can get a report on the allocation customer. And then I go in and I do a $0 transaction, and I reduce the allocation customer and I increase the actual job to which I want it assigned. And the same thing for owner's time. So that's a question that I get a lot from contractors. They're not, they're a member of their LLC, they're not taking a paycheck, but their time is worth something. And so when you're trying to figure out how you're going to allocate the owner's time, you think about costing it out at a rate at which you would have to pay somebody else to do the work that the owner is doing. And then again, the owner somehow would have to be time tracking, so you would be able to figure out, it's plus how many quantities to assign it to the customer, and or the project that I'm working on, and then minus, and it's all going in and out of one account. And then so you do the $0 check. Yep.
How often would you make these types of adjustments? Would that be something that you do monthly, weekly, when you want to run a report? What is, typically, how often are you doing a transaction like that?
I think it depends on how long the job is going on. I mean, again, it's to know that customer to try and figure out what you want to do. A lot of the contractors that I work with, some of them have shorter jobs, and so they just do it at the end of the job. Mm-hmm. I have a boat manufacturer, so they're not really a contractor, but they want to do the same thing with the owner's time and then all the stuff that they buy in bulk. And they're going to do it as they are, and it takes them, 3 months or something to build the boat. They're going to make that entry as soon as they use that material, and they know that they can go ahead and allocate it to that boat that they're making. Okay. So it's certainly at year end, right?
Right.
Or reporting end, whatever the reporting end is, I would probably want to do that allocation. Kind of up to you. Know thy client.
Right.
So how about direct labor? So that has been an area that has been a real challenge in working directly in QuickBooks Online. Mm-hmm. So there have been some great strides in this. So if you are using one of the built-in QuickBooks payroll services, so QuickBooks Online Payroll or QuickBooks Full Service Payroll, where it's built into QBO, you can actually labor costs now doing time tracking. And if you're not using built-in payroll, there's a way to labor costs using, well, they keep changing the term. On this slide, it's internal hourly rate. It may be on one of our other slides, we see something else. But basically, I'm coming up with the cost of somebody's time. So it could be their wages plus X amount for the benefits, add 15% or whatever on there, and then getting reports using that internal hourly rate. Or you use third-party apps like Knowify, and I'm sure Taryn will talk about that when he talks about Knowify on there. So with QuickBooks Payroll, of course, you're going to create a project, right? I mean, this is using projects on here. So you create the project in QuickBooks. If you're using QuickBooks Payroll, you do need to make sure to set your payroll preferences to copy the hours to the paycheck. And it's different. So for those in here who are QuickBooks Desktop users, where when we look at the paycheck, we do our time tracking, we allocate our time to the customers, and then we create the paycheck, we can actually look on the paycheck and see it broken down by customer. That's not how it works in QBO. Maybe on the back end, but that's not exactly how we're seeing it. But you still have to make sure that you set the payroll preferences, because we're going to do time tracking, because that's how we're going to track the time to the job. And then we want to use those hours of time tracking and have it create the paycheck. And for whatever reason, that is not a preference, a payroll preference that's automatically turned on. So you need to make sure that you do that. And then, keep trying to go on, you're going to enter your time. So you can enter your time using T-Sheets. T-Sheets works with Knowify too, which is pretty cool. And it works with QBO. So you can either enter your time in QBO itself, or you can enter your time in T-Sheets. And if you're familiar with T-Sheets at all, it is super flexible. So I can set it up so that I can assign the billing status and then the customer and the service item that goes along with it. And then I have my notes on there. So however I enter my time, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I enter it in, or I can enter it directly. If I'm not using T-Sheets, I can enter my time directly into QBO, or have a time tracking only user and have them enter their own time. If I am using T-Sheets, I need to approve the time before I pay for it. So cool thing is we can do that now in QBO by, you can see here, when you go to the Quick Create, you approve time, and then when you click on approve, then you can go ahead and run the payroll. If I'm just using QuickBooks to do my time tracking, then I have that payroll preference turned on, I'm just going to run the payroll. So again, when I run the payroll, I'm not going to get a payroll report that is going to give me the breakdown on the paycheck. The paycheck is still going to say hourly or whatever earnings items that I have on that paycheck. But when I go and look at the project profitability report for a particular project, I'm going to see the taxes and the wages. So the wages that are allocated to that job and the related taxes. So my guess is the taxes are split based on, the total payroll and then how much is allocated to that particular job. So we have true job costing payroll if we're using that built-in QuickBooks payroll service. So it will include that. If we want to use estimated costs, we have, and it's changing where we're going to actually assign this. But at this point, I think everybody has it where you can assign the cost rate per hour on the timesheet itself. And so that will allow you to see approximate labor. So you come up with the rate, so that $30 an hour, maybe I'm paying the person $23 an hour, and I figure it's costing me like $7 an hour in benefits. So I put in what that rate is. I say what project did they work on, what kind of work did they do, I put in how many hours they worked, blah, blah, blah on there. Then you can run this time cost report based on this internal rate per hour. And again, it's changing where you see what when you're looking at reports and you're looking at the project center. So you may actually see it in the project profitability report when you're looking from the project center, and then you look at that project profitability report. So as far as invoicing goes, I mean, we can invoice from the estimate either by going back to the estimate and copying to the invoice, or we go ahead and open up an invoice, and when we put in that project name, the drawer opens up and we can add the estimate to the invoice. We can progress invoice, so we need to make sure we turn on progress invoicing in the sales settings. And if we progress invoice, then it will say what percentage, or do you want to do a certain dollar amount or a certain percentage for each individual line. And then we can create an invoice from scratch. We can then create an invoice from billable charges, so things that are probably not new to you on there. So let's just spend a minute talking about reports. So project reports, again, what you see might be a little bit like this on here, where when you click on a particular project in the project center, it will give you an overview, it will give you transactions, it will give you time activity, it will give you project reports, where you have kind of your project profitability across the top with the profit margin on there. So these we get directly from the project center, so all of our reports in one area, which is really nice. When I look at the project profitability, now I can run the P&L by job and I can filter it for a customer and that or a particular project. That's basically what this is doing for me, and I'm accessing it from the project center. And it's automatically setting it all dates, which makes sense. There's also in the project center, the unbilled time and expense report. So any time charges, delayed charges, or unbilled expenses would show up in this report. And then we saw that report before, the time costs based on that internal rate per hour if we're not using a built-in QuickBooks payroll service. From the report center, we can do a P&L by job, filter for the particular sub-customer or project that we're working on, make sure we change it to all dates. this is the report that I said I kind of like. And again, been a long time desktop user, and so I love the project profitability report, which gives you by items. So we can kind of manipulate the P&L report by saying, I want the columns to be products and services, and then my accounts go on my rows, and then I filter this for a particular job, and I filter the products and services saying, I only want to show the costs that have a product, that use a product or service. So we say products and services specified. And that's
great.
The closest thing that we get to the, yeah, it is. I mean, it'd be nice to have it built in, but at least we can get that information. And then in our report center, there's an income by customer summary. So we see our income, expenses, and net income. If we drill down on that, we get the income by customer detail report. And then we could just change the header to the actual job or project name. And then if we're using budgets, we can do a budget versus actual report. So we can see what we estimated, both on the sales side and the cost side, and compare that to actuals. And then this is a really new report. It's the progress invoice versus estimate report. I know, Liz, you were waiting for this one.
I know this is that thing where you say, how many jobs do I have in progress and how far along have I progressed in my job? So this is the nice summary that we've been
right. And it is a summary, and it doesn't give you, I mean, if you drill down, you don't get like a really great report.
Right.
But I can only think that it will get better and better. That's what I'm thinking. And I think that's it. So my conclusion is, what do you want to do? Do you want to use QuickBooks? If you're using QuickBooks, make sure that you're in QBO Plus. Or would you rather have a third-party app that may have a lot more flexibility, like if I have scheduling to go along with it, then you want to go to apps.com and take a look at it.
Right.
Well, and I think this goes back to, where do you feel the strongest and who's going to be doing a lot of the work, and what's your relationship? Like you said, what's your relationship with your client? Because what you showed us was a lot of QuickBooks heavy, how to job cost using projects. And so that's going to, typically that's going to take a lot of training for the accountant, for the bookkeeper.
Right.
So it's, QuickBooks now has that ability, and then who's going to be performing those tasks?
Right.
Right. And it's like a case again, I think, of who do you really want to have in your QuickBooks versus would you rather have the project manager handle it outside of QuickBooks and then it integrates into QuickBooks, so I keep people out of QuickBooks, that whole internal control thing.
I think that's also the mobility. I mean, we do have the mobile app, but it's very limited. And so a lot of, contractors need to have more information about the jobs out in the field. And, with QuickBooks Online, you have some of that, but you don't have, it's not real feature rich. And so you might want to look to an app like Knowify or others to handle that.
Well, and I also think this goes back to the very beginning, MB, whenever you were mentioning the different industries. And so when you're talking about the USs, so the accountant bookkeepers in the world, we can use those projects to be able to track profitability on a project. But if we're going to be using a lot of supplies and we're going to be using a lot of time, then maybe it is, the right choice to be moving outside of QuickBooks when we're talking about our clients and construction and different parts of the job.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So we have a couple of questions that have come in through Zoom and Facebook. So I'd like to share those if you don't mind.
Great.
Rita has a question. I do film production accounting. The expenses are cash outflows that are on the balance sheet. If the budget is in the P&L, can I still run outflows against the budget?
No.
Right.
Because we cannot do a budget for a balance sheet account and QBO. So that is an issue. I mean, if you're capitalizing all of your costs, so you're putting all of your costs on the balance sheet as like a work in process, and then reclassing it when the project is done. If you need these kinds of reports, you're going to flip it. You're going to have everything post to the P&L, And then at period end, you're going to do an entry to put things in work in process, because as I think you probably knew the answer to your own question on there, is that budgets aren't going to work because I can only budget for P&L accounts.
Yep. Which that means there's more workarounds.
Right. Yeah. There's
Right.
a lot of workarounds, and you know, the job allocation, everything is, I mean, that's a little bit time consuming. So it's definitely, you know, nice to have, you know, when you're looking at the client, you want to look at how frequently are they going to be making those type of entries? What is the volume of the transactions for the business? And that really does make your decision on whether it's appropriate to keep it in QuickBooks or to start to look for an app, a third-party app. So,
did you have other questions too?
I had a question. If you wanted to use items for budgeting expenses, could you use negative items on an estimate?
I had a hard time hearing you, Heather. I'm sorry.
Me too.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay. Here, I'll bring my mic a little bit closer to me. If you wanted to use items for budgeting expenses, could you use negative items on an estimate? Can you put a negative item on the estimate? I think you cannot.
I don't think, I haven't tried that.
Be able to do that. I haven't tried that.
I haven't tried it either, but the problem would be because it's on a sales form. Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question.
Yes, that, Heidi. Thanks for the challenge.
Right.
So, and then Larry was just asking if we were going to show the slide deck. Yes, we are. I will grab the link for that right now and make sure that I post that in the questions panel in the chat window, and I'll also post it out on Facebook. So, Abby,
did you see, Heather, that, wait, okay, hold on, that Tanya just said, yes, you can put negatives on the estimate because they do that for retention, which makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, nope, that does make sense. And was that, oh, there she is, Tanya, perfect.
Awesome. Okay, with that said, is that the end of our questions? I think so. All right. Well, I want to thank you, MB, because that was a really, really strong how-to and the workflow for using projects inside of QuickBooks Online. And this conversation is all about, you know, there's different ways to be able to track job costing. And so being able to be QuickBooks heavy and then show that job costing piece with using projects inside of QuickBooks Online, MB, you're the expert in it. So I very much appreciate you coming and sharing that workflow with us. And now I want to flip it over to Taryn, because Taryn is going to show us the Knowify side. So 2 different workflows using 2 different apps and methods. And, you know, the key here is who do you want involved in your QuickBooks? How are you going to be doing it? Who's going to be the recording? And so I love it that we've got Taryn here. So thank you, Taryn.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm always happy to chat about Knowify and, you know, let everyone know a little bit more about what we do. I really appreciate you guys giving me the time today.
I think that's exactly what we're doing. We're doing some education. So what exactly Knowify does. And I think that we're going to kick this off by saying, I love this drink. I love it. Mine is right here.
I've got mine, and I tried so hard to do that squiggly thing with the orange.
Oh, and I didn't even try.
No, it wasn't working for me. I tried, but I've got my little orange. And
so I think so I have to share the funny story that you know, we say, hey, do you want to be part of the making of the drink name and the ingredients, and is there something specific that is, you know, from your location, kind of alcohol, whatever. And so whenever Taryn came back with the screwdriver, I was like, oh, I love it so much. And
perfect.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's adorable.
It's a little too perfect between the orange and it being named a screwdriver. It just all came together a little bit too well to turn away. So
I love it. I love it. So cheers, and here's another drink. So I'm gonna take my orange out this time so it doesn't go up my nose.
It's still a little early for me here in Vancouver, but I know the team in New York at HQ is having
their screwdrivers
and tuning in. So They're representing on my behalf there.
Never too early. Never too early. Okay, so Taryn, I think that what I'm going to do is pass to you the ability to.
Yeah, let's see how this works here. Okay.
So this is, you might want to start with, this whole different approach. Oh, there we go. There's Taryn.
Cool.
Because that's a picture of you, isn't it?
Yeah. Same sweatshirt, same pose. Yeah. I'm a big fan of my Knowify sweatshirt, kind of have to be, but yeah, just to introduce myself for those of you who don't know me, I've been working with Knowify for just about 4 years now. Started by doing just general customer support, but these days I'm doing a little bit more management of the customer success team. And any advisors who have reached out to Knowify probably know me because I also manage our advisory program. So if you guys end up taking the certification quiz and it's too hard, too easy, let me know. I put the questions together, so maybe I could always use some adjustments here and there. Just some other experience I've had pre-Knowify for anyone wondering. I have had a lot of odd jobs in construction. I've worked for commercial general contractor, surveying companies, architecture offices. It's kind of been what I've done with my life up until Knowify, so only fitting to jump right on the team and work with our construction-based software here. And some non-work related things. I'm a big donut fan. I like a good donut. There's one of my simple pleasures in life. So if you're ever wondering what kind of treat to bring by at a trade show, you find a donut, best chances are I might want it. But yeah, it's like you said, I want to be able to answer a lot of questions that I find that accountants are often come to us with, and at the highest level, just to start, what is Knowify? At the highest level, Knowify is a cloud-based project management software that we built for trade contractors. And I'll get a little bit more into the specifics of what type of contractor we work with in a bit. But what's different about Knowify versus a lot of other apps out there is that it is the main point of entry for the contractor. This is going to be where they log in every day. They're going to be entering their purchases, all of their bills, any of the accounting information that's relative to a job is going to be run through our system. So this includes all of their contract management, invoicing, and as a result, we give them this real-time job costing that doesn't require a report run at the end of the month or anything like that. They know exactly with each time entry, with each purchase order that goes out, where they stand on each of these jobs. And then obviously as a bonus, it's going to sync up with QuickBooks, so they don't have to enter anything into QuickBooks. It just helps them get everything into QuickBooks correctly. And I'll be getting into that a little bit more as well, without actually having to enter the software itself. But one of the most common questions we get is, who is a good fit for Knowify? And let's see, looks like I accidentally zoomed out here. And I had mentioned this briefly, but our best fit in Knowify is trade contractors. Sometimes people will call them the subcontractors. So think plumbing, electrical, HVAC. Those are really the companies that need our system the most. They're generally working for general contractors or home builders as opposed to being the home builders themselves. And I think a lot of the reason that we do thrive with these companies more than the home builders is that their expenses are a mix of all these different aspects of their business. Their purchase orders going out, their bills that they're logging, employee time. It may be a simple allocation of materials that were used from their inventory. Things like this all come together to show them their cost to date, whereas the standard GC or home builder probably is just managing the bills that are coming from subcontractors. So the people who are using Knowify are probably sending the bills to these GCs. And we include a little breakdown so you can see a little bit more about kind of who our customer base is. We have noticed that electrical is definitely our biggest client base. But we also do have a fair number of remodelers, and sometimes this can get a little confusing because we do say not GCs. If they are doing a mix of their own labor as well as hiring subs, they're doing small scale remodel work under contract, they actually do seem to be a good fit for Knowify. And it's again because they have a mixture of costs, not just the simple bills coming in makes up the cost of this job. That type of stuff is a little bit easier to manage in QuickBooks, since it's just raw expense. It can be happening per transaction as opposed to each day that the job progresses. And so that's a little bit more about how we work with remodelers, as opposed to just a raw home builder, someone who's either building on spec or doing residential development. Since a lot of the Knowify processes and reporting are revenue based, and I should say revenue driven, and the standard home builder or custom or residential developer, however you want to look at them, is going to be selling the homes to recognize revenue. It's a little bit harder to use Knowify. You kind of have to hack around a fake contract. It's just not really our target market. But obviously there are a bunch of great softwares out there for them too. I think Builder Trend is a good fit too. So there's always solutions for those contractors as well.
I love that you're saying that, Terrence. I'm going to kind of like just hop in there. So I love what you said. This is not for home builders. It's for all of the general contractors that revolve around other projects. And the other question that I have is, do you have a favorite size of business? So do they need to have so many employees or so many projects or income?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, Knowify has definitely built to scale. So we have companies that are as small as 1 employee and as big as 70, 80 employees. As far as revenue, same idea. We have companies that will bring in slightly less than $1 million a year. We have companies that will bring in 50 million in revenue a year. Our target, I'd say, the companies that really thrive the most are, I'd say, between 10 to 25 employees, and that's actually more field employees, users in Knowify. There's probably some other office staff that might not be logging in, and I'd say around the 5 to 20 million in revenue a year. That's kind of our target size that we see using Knowify the most.
Got it.
And just to kind of segue that into our next slide, people ask, why use Knowify? What's in the software that contractors need? And in our experience, Knowify is really best suited for contractors who are starting to grow their business. It's almost like a transitional software to help you get off of paper or off of Excel sheets. And so, if you are a company, and I believe MB had actually mentioned something about kind of the changing of hands that's happening in a lot of construction companies these days. If you are trying to modernize your business a little bit, a lot of times we see that it's the son taking over the father's company, a situation like that, and they're just trying to add a little bit more organization to the business. That's a big part of where Knowify comes into play. Aside from just job costing, which obviously is a huge plus of having Knowify, it helps them make themselves look more professional through things like custom document generation for their proposals and invoices. It gives them e-signature built into the software, and just a lot more organization and automation, so things don't need to be re-entered. You get to save a lot of employee time that would have been spent doing very simple plug and chug work from one Excel sheet to another and that type of work.
Taryn, this is a great time for me to chime in as we're talking about automation and day-to-day repetitive tasks and how Knowify can help. I noticed that you guys are in beta on Zapier now. So you guys have a Zapier integration.
It's in my notes to bring this up. We'll actually be doing a webinar pretty soon. So if anyone isn't tired of listening to me talk yet, you can hear a little bit more about me, or about Zapier.
Well, you know I'll be there.
Yeah, we're definitely very excited about it. It's a nice way to get a little bit more customization out of Knowify. And if the reality is, building a tech stack these days is very important for a business. Again, if you want to modernize, you got to make sure you have the best fit for everything you're doing. And so a lot of people who want let's say more CRM capability are using our Zapier connection that we have right now to start an email campaign whenever they add a new client to Knowify. This triggers MailChimp. MailChimp sends out information, and then that way you don't have to worry about having one guy whose job it is to look at every client added, send out an email, wait a couple of weeks. It's all just happening, through these integrations. And so we're always excited to be able to offer these types of automations inside of Knowify as well. And as far as, job costing goes, because obviously this is something that, we're always talking about at Knowify. Knowify does offer very fast real-time labor costing. And this is something that's definitely going to be a little bit more feature rich than what you're going to see with QuickBooks projects. As far as, how we put this together, it's a very similar process in that you do enter a rate per employee. In fact, I saw Tanya was in here earlier. She did a great presentation on how to build labor burdens, and we showed you a little bit more about how to put it together in Knowify. But it's with each entry, even pre-approval, we're adjusting the cost of the job. So you can see, not just what time did this employee check in, what time did he check out, where did he check in, where did he check out, but also how much is that costing my company today? A lot of the times, construction projects end up running over budget. It's because they run the report at the end of the month to see how they're doing in labor costs. And they see like, uh-oh, I already went way past the number of hours that we expected. And so we give you that reporting as you go through every day. So if something's starting to approach the budget, as soon as possible. And that actual versus budget reporting is another big part of what we do. Again, I was actually very impressed with what projects had to offer. I also just wanted to thank MB on the presentation. I definitely learned a lot about what QuickBooks is doing. And I think the whole Knowify team was probably a little impressed. They're definitely learning a little bit about how to put this stuff together for contractors. But we do have the ability to have that item breakdown per job. We call them phases. So it's not just total labor costing, total job costing, but it's breaking down into each item within the job. How much did I spend on this job versus the budget? But then break that down to labor and materials within framing on that budget. So you get the high level reporting, but also this really granular reporting. So if you want to look again later on and see, how did I do on this job? How should I budget again in the future? Knowify will give you all that reporting that you need.
I love that, because that was one of the things I was going to say is how do you track it? Expenses with accounts, or do you use items? And so I love that you just said items.
Yeah, and so we do have a lot of great ways to sync up with your QuickBooks feed of products and services. We try to have as in-depth of a sync as possible with QuickBooks at any point in time, and so every invoice can be, every line of an invoice could be invoiced in percentages. So it's not just the total, every line of a contract can be tagged to a catalog item and invoiced in percentages. So it's not a percentage of the whole contract, but of each line. This is very important with AIA invoicing as well, which is another feature we offer. So people who do really big commercial and government projects, and they need to have that G702 and G703 form, we'll generate it and we'll be able to sync it correctly with QuickBooks to make sure that everything is connecting correctly.
And the other thing that's on this slide too is keeping the clients out of the QuickBooks file. So that's another big point with Knowify, is that you're working directly inside of Knowify for just about everything from the project side. Yeah,
absolutely. That was definitely the next part I was getting to, is that, as far as how Knowify is going to be working for accountants, since Knowify is a software built for contractors, it's easier for them to use than for them trying to figure out a way to make an accounting system work for their construction projects. And so it's a little bit more natural of a flow, and we use that to actually sync everything with their QuickBooks account. So basically you can keep them out of QuickBooks Online. This is also really helpful if you have contractors that are hesitant to switch from QBD to QBO, because they're not actually switching from QBD to QBO. They're switching from QBD to Knowify, and then everything on your end is QBO. So if you prefer QBO, you can actually use it, and they'll get all the features and then some that they were getting from QBD, and you'll be able to, on the back end, get all of that QuickBooks Online functionality as well.
Taryn, somebody had asked in the chat, does Knowify sync with QuickBooks Desktop, or is it just QBO?
We're actually running a beta right now. The reality is, a lot of construction companies in the US are still using QuickBooks Desktop, and we want to be able to give them a transitional option while they switch from QBD to QBO. And so, if you're interested in learning about the beta, please reach out to us. We're happy to set it up for you guys.
Awesome. And I just had another quick, I don't know if it's a quick question, but another question. So as far as support for the implementation with a client, so we have a client, we decide that they're a perfect fit for Knowify. What role does your team play in helping our clients and ourselves with that implementation process?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll be definitely getting into our advisor program in a little bit more depth in a bit.
Okay.
We do have a fantastic support team. I'm very biased in this opinion, but I really do think we are fantastic. And we have a lot of online guides, a lot of online videos. And if none of that helps, just shoot us an email. We're happy to schedule a one-on-one training session with you or the client, or you and the client, ideally, whenever works best.
Perfect.
Awesome.
But moving on from what Knowify is, why do our customers use Knowify? I did see a lot of questions about how does Knowify sync with QuickBooks? Now we do have this really in-depth bi-directional sync, and a lot of this includes just basic information that needs to be syncing up in both directions. So think your list of clients, list of vendors, your products and services. These need to be transferring back and forth so everything's up to date in both softwares. We also do have the ability to sync expenses and bills from QuickBooks into Knowify. The system was really initially built to push from Knowify to QuickBooks. Again, the idea is to really give the customer the option, the contractor the option to only use Knowify and still get all that into QuickBooks. But we do still want people to be able to use a lot of the automation in QuickBooks. My next slide is about using Knowify with other apps that sync with QuickBooks. I'll be getting into that too. So we can sync those in both directions. And the same goes for any payments. So you may log your bills, log your invoices into Knowify, but you still can manage all of your cash flow in your QuickBooks account, and that'll sync back to Knowify and make sure that everything closes out accordingly. Again, this is a lot because we find that people want their accountant, want their bookkeeper to take care of any writing checks, anything around cash flow, anything about syncing with a bank feed, and it'll always sync up and make sure that Knowify is aware of what's happening in QuickBooks as well. As far as things that are one directional, invoices do need to be generated in Knowify. It's so we can manage all of the progress invoicing on our side. Again, we do have very in-depth progress invoicing features, including a change order management feature that's really built to work with the contract as opposed to setting up a separate contract or any of these workarounds. It's all built on the same system. You can include them on the same invoices, and it all syncs over to QuickBooks. And then any time that's tracked in Knowify can also be pushed to QuickBooks. But as far as pulling, we can pull from T-sheets. Again, something that MB had touched on briefly. So if you have a contractor that's already on board with T-sheets, they have a very smooth process as far as time tracking goes. That's more than okay. It'll be able, we'll be able to pull the time into Knowify for all of your job costing.
And then Taryn, we've got about 3 minutes left before we're at the top of the hour. And so I want to make sure that we're able to talk about the apps and then also the advisor program. So
yeah, I'll speed through the apps really quickly.
Okay.
If you have more information about this, definitely reach out. But basically, since we can pull expenses and payments from QuickBooks into Knowify, you can use other apps like Receipt Bank, Pluto, Bill.com, HubDoc, and they'll go through QuickBooks into Knowify. And then as far as T-sheets goes, again, it's a direct integration. So you can enter time into T-sheets and make sure it's job costed into Knowify projects.
I love that. To work with your other workflow.
But
Awesome.
just to summarize and wrap up, I just like to give everyone a little bit more information on our advisor program. Basically, just for registering and signing up for our program, we offer you a free Knowify account. That's just similar to your QBOA account. You can use it for testing. We can populate it with some test data if you want. It'll connect to QuickBooks, and you get full functionality of Knowify just to be able to demo, train, test things, whatever you need it for.
I can say thank you for that. I'm sure I'm going to say that on behalf of all accountants. Thank you.
We're happy we can help. We're happy to do it. We actually do see that some accountants even use it to manage their own practice a little bit too, so they can job cost clients.
Absolutely.
Aside from that, through that portal, you also get free access to your clients' accounts. So they don't have to pay to give you access. We like to encourage them to give you access so you can help them out with all of the sync and the books. And then if you're interested in sending us leads, but you don't want to support them, we can give you just a raw referral bounty as opposed to a consistent revenue share, which is 50% of 4 months revenue. It has to be after they've been active for 6 months in Knowify, but we're happy to do that regardless of certification. Then once you pass the certification quiz, we actually give you a 20% discount code that never expires as long as the customer is still working with you. So that way, either you can offer them 20% off their subscription, or you can use it. You can hide the subscription from their page and bill them for Knowify directly, so it can be part of your bundle building. And as you find more and more success with Knowify, we actually do have a lot of clients that reach out to us looking for bookkeeping services. So we refer a lot of businesses to the accountants that work from with us as well. So we always have that option too.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and then
you had a promotional code that you were.
It's on the next slide.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I was just getting to it.
Yay!
And then for anyone who attended the Appy Hour today, you can use the code Screwdriver, all lowercase, and it'll give you 30% off your client's first year without any kind of certification necessary. Just if you have any other questions on that, definitely reach out.
Fantastic.
I made it 1 minute over.
Well, I think it's really good information, and being able to show both workflows, I love it because there's big differences in both systems, and I appreciate you being on to go over how to use Knowify, what things to do inside of Knowify that keeps you outside of the QuickBooks, and being able to integrate with all of the apps that we're using, Bill.com and T-Sheets. So it's a really strong combo.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Heather, do we have any questions, or do we want to move over to what we're doing this month?
Well, I have one question.
Okay.
Questions and comments. We answered Diane's question about desktop and online. Let's see. Stephanie Mack wanted to know what Knowify recommends for CRM integration. You talked about integrations, and you see a CRM there.
Yeah, this is one we'll definitely cover when we do our Zapier integration. We're big Pipedrive fans internally, just because that's what we use. But really, anything that works with Zapier is going to work with Knowify. So it's CRM is all about finding whatever fits best for your company.
Great question. Yeah. And Heather, the other thing that we were wanting to do is do a who wants to be reached out.
Yeah. So let's launch that poll. I have a poll that I'm going to launch, and if you would like to, where's my poll here?
Do I need to stop sharing so that way you can?
You're going to have to launch the poll because you're now the host. So down at the bottom, you'll see 3 little dots, and it'll say launch poll.
Let me get out of the slideshow.
There we go. So if you want to answer those polling questions, that would be fantastic. And we'll have Taryn and his team reach out to you with more information about Knowify. Remember, you get that free account for you as an accountant, and that's a great promo code for your clients. So just take a second to fill that out, and then we're going to talk about our coolest thing this month. We usually do the coolest thing we did this month with an app, but then Liz and I decided that we really have something that's totally cool that we decided that would be our coolest thing this month that we're going to do this month, actually with a whole bunch of apps.
No, I'm so excited.
We are. So we'll be talking about that in a minute. We're going to be doing a special Facebook Live actually tomorrow related to our news in just a moment. So
I'm going to end the poll because it looks like we've had just about everyone answer who's going to. So if you want to answer, I'm going to end it now.
Okay. Perfect. So do you want to go ahead and advance to the next slide?
I do, yes.
Awesome.
I'm going to advance this twice. There we go.
So so Liz and I, a week from today, actually, we will be getting on an airplane and flying to London for QuickBooks Connect London. And we're super excited to be heading out there for both the Small Biz Hackathon in London, which will be a ton of fun. We were at the hackathon in San Jose, and then we're going to be going to QuickBooks Connect on Monday and Tuesday. So we're super excited to be there. Please do follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We'll be doing tons of Facebook Lives, interviews with Intuit, with app developers, with our fellow pro advisors over in the UK. Brad Salmanis and Andrew Wall are also going over to QuickBooks.
Our buddies.
going over. And so we have a little, North American contingent that's going to go over and be the ambassadors over in London. So we're super excited about that. So you can follow us at QB, hashtag QB Connect, or QB Appy Hour World Tour. We'll be using those hashtags as we broadcast from London next week. So huge thank you to both MV and Taryn for joining us today. This was an amazing session. I learned so much, both about the project features in QuickBooks and about Knowify. I'm really excited to get my account so I can start playing with it, especially, I want to take a look at that Zapier integration too. So
I bet you do. So Taryn, you're going to have to send Heather the link of whenever you're going to be doing that class. Or maybe just send it to all of us and then we can post it on our Facebook for all of the people who want to join.
Yeah, it'll definitely be on Facebook. I'm pretty excited about it too. So I'm going to be throwing it. That's, every email I have is going to learn about the Knowify Zapier integration. So.
That's great. Well, thank you everyone for being here. And of course, thank you for liking the Facebook page and following us on Twitter. We certainly appreciate it.
Yes, tomorrow at
5 o'clock
Eastern time, we have a special Facebook Live with Sarah Simpson, Brad Selmanis, Andrew Wald, Liz, and myself. We're going to be talking about our upcoming trip to London. So we'd love to see you guys on that tomorrow and until March 12th. And March 12th, we're going to be doing an episode with the Intimate Developer team. We're going to circle back and talk to the winners of the $100,000 App Showdown. And see what's happened since they won back at QuickBooks Connect in San Jose. So that'll be a really fun, really fun episode next month as well.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you guys again for having me.
And I love the drink. I just keep on sipping it.
Cheers, guys. I'll get mine in an hour or two.
You have to tell us how good it is. And if you stir it with a screwdriver.
Absolutely.
Right.
But I definitely will.
That you've cleaned.
And then,
Look at Heather. There she is.
I keep
I'm impressed.
a screwdriver, right?
That's fantastic. Love it. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye. You too.
Bye.